That was
Ich glaube nicht, das nicht gewähnt. Because it's like klärt. In der Geschichte, wo es was gewähnt, wenn hat Schiddur. Aber ich meine, als das nach sich gleich. Or hat er nur noch so viel. Es ist gewähnt in der Geschichte Hamid. Der Geschichte Hamid ist ein Cipher. Ja, aber es ist geschrieben für Entertainment of the Blood.
Ja, okay. So, es ist jede Maße schon als Nummer.
Aha.
Ich habe die ganze Schlimme Folgen, so das Jahr. So,
Und da gibt der Reihe von hat ja noch heute, ist da.
Aber der Reihe ist wie eine Reihe von mir. Der mein Heilig von der Maße, das ja. Das ist nicht der Maße. Die uns auch gefallen. Zu der Zeit für kann, das Sachen. Das kannst du einfach und dann
sagt der heilige Wissen. Mich haye Yosy, der kann gewinnen der Kaldisch Mensch. Der kann der Kaldisch Mensch. Der kann. Das Tzadik Hai. Mit endigt die zweite Perikant. Misha haye Yosy. Ach, Benji said, good morning. So Misha haye Yosy beis noshim. Someone had two wives, and then Umocher Esadei, he sold his field. Rashi says which field? The field that was Meshubit to the Ksuba. So of course both wives have a right to take it back from the Lekech. But the cost for Rishon Lekech, the first wife wrote to the Lekech, Dined Dvarim Einli Imcha. Ich will nicht schuben to team with her. I'm not going to moon you. I'm not going to take anything away from you. So she's given up her right to moon the field from the Lekech. So if there's not enough money in the estate to pay for the Ksuba, she can't take it. She cannot take it away from the Lekech. But Ashniya Maitzia Mehelekech. The second wife could go take it away from the Lekech. Now that the second wife has it, well, there's a shibud on it to the first wife. And the first wife has an earlier shibud. So therefore, really shine him in Ashniya. Now the first wife can go take it away from the second wife. That's right. That's right. And Lekeach Minarishoin and Lekeach take it back. The Choshes Chalilus goes around and around and around. So how do you ever settle it? The Rishoin can is weg from the Shni. Das verstehe ich.
Ja, aber das kann man gar nicht von der Schule, weil es schon den wurde.
Weil der Schnee hat nicht mehr recht.
Why? Was kannst du kein Trick nennen von der Schule? Weil sie schon den wurde, jetzt schon nicht mehr.
Why can you take it right back from the Rishoina? You're taking it from the Rishoina. You're taking it from the Rishoina.
Why?
Yeah, because she had been done.
Aber das ist schon nicht mit dir. Das ist schon nicht da.
Okay. So the shaila is, why does Lekech love a koichet? So there are those who learn. The Acharonim talked about this. I think Rabbi Chonon says that the question is if you say that the second Balchoy doesn't have a schus from the first Balchoy. So if you say Mashagava Einagava, and therefore the first Balchoy can go back and take it, does that mean it's as if the second person never took it? Or is it shot that the second person took it, but you could take it back? So he wanted to bring a raya from here that the reason why the Rishoina can take it from the Shniya, the Rishoina can take it from the Shniya. No, the reason why the Lekech can take it back from the Rishoina is because we look at it as if the Shniya never took it in the first place, because the Shniya didn't have a right to take it. So if the Shni never took it in the first place, so then the Lakeach can take it from the Rishon.
Why didn't she have the right?
Because there was a person in a position for the Ksuba before her. The Rishon had the right before the Shnia. So the Shnia, she's the from the Lakeach. She's the from the Shnia. So she's maintaining her schus like the Shnia. So then it's as if the Shnia never took it.
No,
If you hold Mashagavi, ain't a Gavi. So a later Bachayiv that takes a karka away from a Lakeach, it still goes back to the earlier Bachayiv. Why does it go back to the earlier Bachayiv? Do you say that the later Bachayiv was able to take it, but now the first Bachayiv can take it away? Or do you say Mashagava and a Gavi, meaning we don't even say that they can take it? So she never had it in the first place. So the Shnia never had it in the first place. So therefore, the Lakech can go back now to the Rishon and take it, because we look at it like the Shnia never took it.
He wants to bring her out from him.
No, that if you hold Masha Gavli, Ein Gavli, if you hold like that, what's pshat in that? So you want to say pshat in that is that it is if it was never taken in the first place. Mishnah is not syndicated.
So he wants to bring it out from here because someone.
Well, this Mishnah for sure holds Masha Gavli and Gavli. Otherwise Rishon couldn't take it from the Shnia. But
because it helped Mashiach, that's why the Lekai can take it back.
That's why the Rishon can take it from the Shnia, and that Lumdus also allows the Lekech to take it back from the Rishon. That's right. The Chazer Chalila, it goes around and around. So all three of them are going to have to sit down and work it out, because Minadin, the best won't be able to say it stops here. The Chen Bachoy, and the same thing is with a Bachoy. Now, what this means, the Gemara is going to explain a little bit later. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. Even if she wrote Dinid Vorim Ainli, that's not a kinyan. If I have a schus in a field, I can't just get rid of it. It needs a kinyan. If you tell your partner, Ainly didn't varm on the field. That's not a kinyan, doesn't work. Or if you say I don't want to have anything to do with it. That doesn't do anything. Speaking with there was a kinyan. And Rashi says, if they actually made a kinyan on the karka itself, then this will work. There has to be a kinyan. Well, remember we had a shaila: is the kinyan on the karka or is the kinyan on the lotion of din dvarim, and then the gun shov the kinyan. So the kinyan has to be on the karka. Right? That's only
to the field do something.
Or they can make a kinyan kesef, or they can make a kinyan star. But the kinyan has to be on the karka. It can be chazaka. If the kinyan is chazaka, then she has to be. It could, but you can't do it with a shmata because chalipin doesn't koin the karka. But you can do it with a kinyan star, kinyan kesef. Does it? So maybe that would do it. I'm not sure. We'll have to see when we get to those Gemaras. So, frankly, even if she made a kinyan, we know that a woman never really intends to give up her rights in the shibud that she has on her husband's karkoyas. Why? Say that even though she said to the buyer, that she didn't mean it, she just wanted to make her husband happy because her husband wanted to get more money for the property. And we know that when women give up rights under pressure, under duress from their husband, it's not even a good chalot. I'm sorry?
This goes on the Mishnah, this goes on the Brais.
Where are you?
This Gemara.
Maybe she never meant the kinyan. She just did it to her husband herself.
The Mishnah says when a woman said it to her tutor.
No, she didn't tell the tutor. No, only to the lekeach. She said. Her husband sold it, and she sold it to the lekeach. So, frankly, when Mila can have mit Chnishka learned Lokach min ish. What if someone buys a property from the husband, v'chazav lokach min isha, and then he went to the wife from the nechsemalug? That's right. Mekche bottle. He said mekche's bottle. Why? Because she only was maskim to the mechira because she wanted to do ois and nachas ruch levaila, but she didn't really mean it. So over here too, alma yechayla hishatoimer. You see that the woman, even though she gave up a right to mond star to mond ksuba from the Lakea, she could say, I didn't mean it. Nachas ruach asisa levaila. I only did it because I felt pressured. My husband did it. I wanted to make him happy. I didn't want to make him angry, but I didn't really mean it. So Ibazoi over here too, the fact that she gave up her shibud shouldn't make any difference at all. Amar b'zera mabchista lo kasha harab Meir harab Yehuda. In fact, it's a machlokes with tanoim between Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda whether or not a lady has that way out by saying, I just wanted to make a nachas ruach l'bayit. So our Mishnah says that she cannot say that. She cannot say I wanted to make nachas ruach l'bayit. And the brisa that we asked from, lokach manish because of lokach manisha mekhay bottle, that's going to go according to Yehuda. Our Mishnah goes according to Reb Meir, and this brisa goes according to Yehuda. And where's the machlokes? The Tanya kasav l'rishon v'loy chas malay. How about the husband wanted to sell a property to buyer A, and she refused to sign. She refused to sign the Nidvarim. Then the second time he tried to sell the Sheni, then he tried to sell to another buyer, the Chasmoy, and she did sign. There, Ivda Kesubos Divrei Meir. She loses her right to say that I only did it. So therefore, it's a legitimate concession, and therefore she has no schus anymore to be taveh this kakvan lakeh. And that's what our Mishnah holds. Once she signs, she signs. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Yechayli Shetoimer, Nachas Ruach Hasisa L'Baili, and therefore, Atem Malachem Alai, what do you want from me? I just did it because my husband wanted me to do it, but I didn't mean it. So, furthermore, you have a very nice teretz. But the problem is, we have our Mishnah, which is a Stam Mishnah, and the Stam Mishnah, Rebbe made it go according to Reb Meir. That, in fact, if she says it, it binds her. She cannot say, I only did it, Lasas Nachas Ruach L'Baili. But the other bride is also a Stam Mishnah. Lokach manish because of lokach manisha mekhaybot. So that's a stam mishnah going to Yehuda. Normally, Rebbe makes a stam mishnah based on who he wants to pass on. Yet here he has one stam mishnah like a Meir and one stam mishnah like a Yehuda. In fact, the more Rebbe shasam lahazak a Meir, the shasam lahazak a Yehuda. So the Gemara is asking to steer in Rebbe himself. So the Gemara Amar Papa begrusha v'divra koil. So this is interesting, because you could say Kula Alma holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Also, it seems very good thing. Kula Alma holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Sai our Mishnah and Sai the Bride holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So in our Mishnah, why is it good? The Teretz, she was a grusha. She signed this after she became a grusha. Once she's a grusha, there's no swear anymore. She wants to make nachas ruach l'bayla, yet she still signed it. So therefore, it's binding. Amar Papa's of Trashi. Masnisin k'shoy's a grusha. The achigach kos v'loyla l'keach chayin. So there she no longer has a time. So that seems very good. What I'm saying is that we pass on like a Buddha. Rabbi Ashi Omar Kula Reb Meir. Rabbi Ashi holds everyone else like a Meir. So that won't stop. Everyone else like a Meir, in fact, that she cannot say Lasas Ruach L'Bayim. But the At can like come Reb Meir Hosam. Where did Reb Meir say that a person cannot say Lasas Ruach L'Bayim? Elo b'shnei l'kuchas. That's only if there were two sales, like the brisa that we quoted. The Omri law will tell her, Im Isa, the Nachas Ruach Avdos, if you didn't want to make your husband upset and you signed it because your husband asked, well then Lakami boy Lechlemevet. You should have done it to the first one. But the first one you wouldn't sign. So from the fact that you didn't sign the first one is a raya that you're not going to be doing Eis Nachas L'Bayla. And with that you signed the second one was Machayev you. But if there's only one Lekeach, Afilu Reb Meir Moida, even Reb Meir would be Moida. That she could say that. Oh, so then weiter, it's not a problem. It's going to go to Meir, but it's also going to go to Yehuda because it stems. Must sneeze in the cause of Leila Achar. Our Mishnah, although it only talks about one case where she said to the Lakech to Nidvarim, there was a story before the story. The Masach from Frier Ungefangen, and there was a mechir before which she refused to sign. So since she refused to sign the first mechira, and she only signed the second mechira, in fact, that she could no longer say lasis nachas ruach.
Aber ich verstehe nicht die Teile, weil es kann nicht, aber ich weiß, was ich da die Home to the ship. Das ist, macht kein Mensch, nein, jetzt will ich nicht, weil ich von der Zeit und in der andere will ich ja, weil...
So that's a good or Tosfos actually talks about it. Tosfos actually talks about that. Because Tosfos says you have to address it, because in the Havamim, before the Gemara said this teretz, we know that the Bride is speaking about the second woman. So Vasa goes to the swore that maybe the first one she was already masculine, but the first time she said she didn't want, but maybe by the second time it's not only lasses nachas ruach, because by the first one, okay, I'll let you sell one, but the second one there's nicht. So there's a swore effect here also. Kizak Gemara back to Tan Hasan. Ein Ephraim in the Chosam Mishubadim b'makim sheyesh nechosam b'nei. We know there's a rule. We learned it a couple of days ago that you could never have a b'chayv could never ever collect from the Chosam Mishubadim. He could never collect from the Lakech if there's anything left by the Loiv himself. Even though normally a b'chayv has a right to collect beinis, and here you have a Loiv who doesn't even have beinis, he only has ziburis, but he sold beinis. You don't say that the malva can go and take from the Lakech. Beinis, he has to take ziburis, and we learned from Rashi that that's a takana. It's a takana so that people. That people shouldn't stop doing business. People want to know, as long as I left something over to the loiva, I'm protected when I buy property. So what was the kshalazoi? What happened if, in fact, there was a soda of beinis left by the loiva, and he sold another field of beinis? So of course he cannot collect from Lakech, because there's beinis there by the loiva. But what if that field got ruined? Ishtadif means it got messed up with the wind. The field got messed up. So now he should be able to say, I have a right to go to Lakech, because when I lent money, I knew that I would have to collect from the Lakech takabat, and he thought he left over. But Lama says it could happen that it would get messed up the field. So do the Malva have a right to go down and take from Lakech? Or could Lakech say, no, go take from that field? Toshma. So the Gemara wants to bring a riot. From our Mishnah.
Means that like the hurricane.
Yeah.
Aber nicht a hurricane, a wind. So for their use, it's nicht geht, was total suspect.
I don't know, Rashi and the Skalkalu, it sounds like it's permanently ruined. I'm not sure why. Because the Gemara is going to bring other...
Isn't that supposed to be this now? So
it's probably worse than Zimbabwe. It's probably worse than Zimbabwe. It's not collectible. So Toshma. Chasav l'rishon, v'loy chashmalai. So this is the brayso that we quoted earlier. L'sheni v'chashmalai. The halacha is ivdok subasa divrei Meir shelash taksuba according to Meir. Zok the Gemara v'isal kadaitach ishtadef b'nei chari tarif mishabdi. If you hold that when there's nechasim left over, but those nechasim got ruined, the malva, or in this case the woman who's the malva, because she's collecting the ksuba, she can go collect from mishabdi nehidit. If the Kesubos Misheni, even though she gave up her right to collect from the Sheni, so we can say it was a shtadif, that property is a shtadif because you cannot collect it from it anymore. Let her go back to the first one. So you have a raya from here. You have a raya from here that you don't say that. You say she loses nothing. Why?
Because the shtadif she didn't bring on herself.
Oh, Kabbalah, that's the Gemara's answer. Beautiful. So Amar B'Nachman Yitzchak, my ivda misheni. This is not your territory. This territory with the shloga. My ivda misheni. The brayso doesn't mean she uses a ksuba completely. It only means that you cannot collect from the sheni, but you can collect from the rishon. Amar Rav, this is not a good teretz. Stay chuvas b'dover. There's two reasons why this is not a good teretz. Chado de ivda legami mashma. If it says ivda subas, it's mashma you lost on ganzen, not only from the sheni. V'oid Tanya, we learned in the brayso. Lova min echad. Someone borrowed money from a malva. And then the loiva went umocher nechasav l'shnayim, and now the loiva sold his property to two people. The chasav balchoy, and the malva wrote l'lakeach sheni. The malva wrote only to the second lakeach dinu dvarim ein li imach, which is similar to our case, where the malva said, "I'm not going to collect from one lakeach." So the halacha is ein loy al lakeach Rishon Klum. He can't go to the Lakeach Rishon because Lakeach Rishon could say, I left you a karka to collect from. That's Lakeach Sheni. You yourself gave up Lakeach Sheni, too bad for you. Because the Lakeach Rishon can tell the Malva, don't take from me, take from the Lakeach Sheni, because when I bought it because I know that the Loiva still had more property by him. That you gave up his chus, too bad for you. Zok Gemara, you're right. Sai by the case of the Malva, and Sai by the case of the lady who signed Hasam Iud Afshid Nafshe Biyadai, which is exactly the terrorist. If she did it to herself, that's not called a shtadif, that's called she herself messed it up. If the Malva himself messes up the field, he can't tine anymore that now I should be able to collect from the other field. Let's just see Rashi, because Rashi brings it out very beautifully. Rashi says, gives it a nafshi, v'chula Rava Karmela. Rava is saying all of this. He got his kashas, and now he actually offers a teretz as well. Loi my ibda, Kesubos says, misheni, da'af marishan ibda. Of course, she loses her schus to collect from anybody. But afilu wachi olivshet mino, ishtadif b'nei chari, loi tarif imishabdi. You can't bring a raya that if the field got ruined, that the Malva cannot collect from the Lakeach. You know why? The Hasam the of the Kesubasa, over there she lost her Kesuba. So inside the case of Kesuba, inside the case of Malva and Levi that we just quoted, where they don't have a right to go collect from the other Lakeach, it's the same as Svara. Hi, the Loy Hadar Gavim Yarishon, Mishum the Afsid Nafshe Biyadayim. I think you used that word, Biyadayim. She did it by herself. Because of Lasheni, Dinu Dvarim Ainli Imach, V'Leidamin Lishtadiv, where you didn't do it, it happened in Hashemayim, and therefore you could still collect from the Lukufis.
That doesn't mean the dilution from the questions I have, but the dilution from the insurance companies is like giving insurance by acting God.
I'm out the middle in the daf. Tzaddikai, yeah.
Sick is Tzaddikai.
You know, Kapegen den Kuschen, will ich mal warten sagen. Na, ein, sind wir in der Mikve, jetzt gewinnt die Mikve. Im Angefangen war Schauer, Akaschen. No, in der Mikve steht,
in der Boot,
Maharazan, mit dem Motor, muss anders ist nicht Akaschen.
In der Boot, ja.
In Borio, ja, war mit der Acetul, ich höre es für Jude.
In der Boot, in der Drosten, in der Meer.
Steht halb gut am Tag, als man bewegen. Right? So steht. Hey, here, Chazal suchen nicht, dass you should be, das ist gar nicht der Mitfahrer. Und dort steht, halb gut am Tag, als man bewegen. Nicht, dass es bewegen. Da geht die Kasche. Ich habe gesagt, dass es nicht vergeht die Kasche, was ist in der Mitfahrer-Kasche. No, die Oile mit der Solution, halb gut, Abus Sachen, dass die Tante bereit, die haben mit Oile Reise gewählt. Und wir sagen, in der Asur, tun wir nicht herangehen, immer die Rennproben, wir tun nicht herangehen mit dem Thema. Es darf man halt gut und letal, als man beregelt. Es beregelt, nicht beregelt. Der Mann, you know, I love him. Okay, answer my therapist. What's your name?
Je doet de halve tijd. Je doet dat dan, ooit het probleem, maar dat is geen eerder wil. En dat is met John, dat ga je
nee.
Dus maakt dat met zich teug.
En nog niet ieder moeder gaat je de bij ze met die stap nog eenmaal teug. Ze hebben een gaan in de mikve.
Maar laat me zeggen op ins, op die en op meer. Wus is op ins de pshat beregelen. Der was guy, der
Memre kommt nicht in Gutes. Der Memre kommt was mit nicht sagen.
Der Memre gesucht geworden damals.
Ja.
Aber
von dem Schatz.
Aber der Brief ist Hand auch. Nicht schon.
Aber es gibt
nicht auf ihr fängt doch auf den.
Fragt auf die Kasche, was gehen die Gäbe, was gehen noch dreimal auf, dann sind noch eher Jante, dann gehen Jante raus.
Maar hier gaat, nou, Jante, dat Shabbos is een Shabbos in Jan. Maar ik leer Bayern, dat in Bayern, oder met Nereke Maaike, dat dus het dan. Dus dan is een Eidhaas, een Kalba, aber Jante in de stoel, okay, I'm sorry, Yosy, I'm really sorry, what's going on. Der erste Teil.
So we're going to miss you.
As.
Rachem and Yukim, Luni.
Ich würde sagen, das kann
If 25 years, don't really bad.
aber ich habe gemeint, dass sie da eine täuschte Dauert meine Sapsa haben.
Wenn Menschen wollen gewiss, dass ich komme daran, du, sie wird Hacker gewesen. Morgen ist da.
Morgen.
Sie hat rausgegangen, die Schmier, sie hat gewesen.
Also,
Ja. Aber ich hoffe, man nicht gehört auf der Tape, als sucht der Geiter weg. Als sucht der Geiter weg. Hat schon gemacht,
ja. Okay,
So ist es so.
No, das ist der erste Teil.
Oh, you are in it.
No, der erste Teil.
Oh, okay, so da wollen wir sagen. Oh, wir wollen
Ja,
sagen.
der erste Teil.
Well, okay, sagt die Gemara.
Okay.
Amalei Rabbi Yemer Larvashi. So Rabbi Yemer looks for Ravashi. You have a shaila about it. If it's not, if you can go collect from the Lekach, but we know every day that this happens. Rashi, the Dayanim Paskin, the Kivin the Shtadif for Nechari, Tormi Mishapi. In fact, it's not a shaila, that's what we do. How do I know? I'll tell you a story. The Hugaver, the Mishkin La Pardiso La Chaver Lesser Shmina. This was an ingenious thing. A person didn't want to lose his partners. So what he did was, I'm not giving you the partners itself as a mashkin. I'm giving you the payers that come from the partners, the rent. When the Reichmans did Canary Wharf, I was told, I remember here they said that they didn't put a mortgage on their properties. They gave the banks for security 100-year lease on their properties, but not the properties themselves. Yeah. So they only had a right to take away the leases, but not the property themselves. Noch the period from the time was immigrated. But they never gave the actual card at all.
The government was
Und bis jetzt, wo es hat viel Warte, weiß ich nicht, aber der Chilm hat man so geschmied. So that's what he did too. He only gave the pairs of the parties for 10 years. Yeah, like a Buddha. The kosh l'chamishnim. And 5 years later, this partis got old and the partis wasn't producing good anymore. So now this Malva is still missing part of his claim. So he wants to go to Lekuchais, who bought other properties from this Loive. So also Lekamayo de Rabbanan, he came to the Rabbanan and he said, listen, he gave me this partis to get its payers, but it's not working because it's not producing payers anymore, and he still owes me a whole lot of money, and I need to collect. So Bezin wrote him a star that he can go now take from the Kuhais. So you see clearly that if it's a shtadiv, he can still go collect from the Kuhais. This is not a hurricane that they can't see in advance that it could happen. This is a partis. They knew that there was a malva there, and they knew that the malva was so far getting paid back by taking payers from the parties. But it's a known thing that eventually a partis gets old and it doesn't produce anymore. So when the Lekuchos bought the other properties, they knew that there was a risk at that point that the partis would dry up and that the malva would come to them. So therefore, even the Havayadi, the Pardisa of it, the Kish, they knew it happened sometimes that a partis was the buyer, the Lekuchos. Therefore, they shouldn't have bought. So they bought with the fair knowledge that they might still have to give up their property. The Hilchasa, Ishtadif, B'nechari, Torfim, and Mishabdi. Of Halacha L'maisa, Paskins the Gemara, that if the B'necharim became Ishtadif, then the Malva can collect from the Kuchais, and vice versa. The Kuchais have to know that there is always that risk. Amar Bai, Zukta Bai, Nichsi Loch. What if a man went over to a woman, a single woman, and tells her, my nechasim I want to give to you. And after you die, Leploini, I want to go to Moshe Pippin. The Omdamanissus, after she got this gift, she went and got married. So the halach is, Baal Lokeach. Her husband has the status of a Lokeach, because the husband has the status of a Lokeach under the chosim of his wife.
So 1 second, then,
The Gemara is going to discuss that. Because the Gemara is going to discuss that.
Oh, the Kedas of your 100-year lease.
So we'll see. The Gemara is going to tell us in a second. So the Baal is like a Lekeach. If the Baal is like a Lekeach, then the Ein Lacharecha b'mokim Baal plum. Because if she sells it, that whoever she sells it to is standing in her position. So if her husband's considered like keach, then her husband can hold on to it as long as he wants, even after she dies. Until the husband dies, because the husband is now has the wife's position. After the husband dies, then it'll go to the acharecha. Then it'll go to Moshe. Zok the Gemara, come on. Who Abai said it's chiddush in halacha? Who does it stim with? Zok the Gemara, ki hai Tana. It's Abai is saying this according to this Tana. Zok Rashi Rab Shimon the Amar mechirasa mechira. According to Rab Shimon, who said that it's a good mechira. The Tanya we learned nichsi loich v'acharecha loploini. My nechasam are going to you, and then to ploini. Now this case, we're going to soon see in the Gemara, is a case where when he gave it to her, she was already married. Because you asked the child what's nagaya, so she was already married. The halacha is yored arisha umachar. If the first person sells it, hasheni moiti miyara lekuchos. Moshe Bibba can take it away from the lekuchos. So here the lekuchos don't have a koyach. Divrei Rebbe. That's as far as Rebbe, which of course does not stem with Abaye, because Abaye holds like keich gets to keep it, right? But Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer ein l'sheni elamash shaya harisha. So Abaye is going according to which Tana? Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, who says that if the receiver of the gift sells it, the person who the receiver sells it to stands in his place, and the acharecha will not get it until after the lokeach is done.
So the last
Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, "Ein l'sheni elamash shaya rishon."
Shishai Rishon means when he dies or whatever, it means that
you already Rishon
it didn't sell the whole thing. Then
no, it means the person who got the gift. If the person sold that gift, if the person sold that gift,
he sold a part of that gift. Then
whatever he sold, the lekech is b'makom, the receiver of the gift, and only after the lekech dies will the gift go back to the sheni. Because it says ein l'sheni elamash shaya rishon. Oh, you mean when he didn't sell? No, that's not true. No, only when the rishon is finished. Only when the rishon, meaning the lekech, is finished with it. Okay, so Zok the Gemara, Umi Amar Abai Hachi. Did Abai say this? And this is actually a steer that can Abai. Amar Abai Hachi. Amar Abai said, "Ezo Rosh Aram. Who's a clever Rosh? Ze Hamasi Eitza Limkar B'Nechas." This is exactly that. Someone who received Nechasim in a gift, and it was a gift where it was Acharecha L'Ploini, and someone told this person, "I have a good Eitza." In order to prevent Ploini from getting it, if you're going to die, quickly sell it to somebody else, and then that person will get it, and you'll tee up the Ploini. So the problem is, there was a Salan Gatin, he's not a Rusha. Only the guy who gives the Eitza is a Rusha. So the Mefarshim explained, the guy who's going to do it himself, Efradin Tepestefin, he's not a Rusha, Tamatuni wants to have it. But the guy who gives the Eitza, who has no benefit from it, Stam a B to be mafsid, and not to be mafsid, a B to undo, to prevent the rotzen of the Noisen, because the rotzen of the Noisen was that you go to A and to B. You're circumventing, you're getting around the rotzen of the Noisen. You're finding a legal way where you can avoid doing the rotzen of the Noisen, and you have no benefit from it. This is a Rusha. So Zok to Gemara, how could you say that Abaya holds that that's what you're supposed to do? It stays by the Lekeach. You see, Abaya holds a schlechte Zach. Zok to Gemara, Mika Amar Tinase. We're not telling her to go get married after she gets such a matana. Nisus Kamar. It says that that's what happened. Zok the Gemara. Let's go back to the original Gemara. Amar Abai Nichsi Lach Vacharecha Laploni. V'am Devanisa. She went to get married. No one says that you're allowed to advise her to get married, because that's what Abai considers a Rosh Hashanah. But nobody advised her. She went to get married. It's a normal thing. People get married.
Everybody should get married.
That's right. That's right.
The intent of the marriage in Shkivein because I wanted.
That's right, and there's no problem with doing that because you're benefiting from it. The only problem is someone who's giving you an Eitza to get around the rotzen of the person who gave. So Dr. Mika Martinos, and this is common. The Amar Abai also said, Nichse loch v'acharecha loploni umachra, and she sold it. Umeis, and she died. Habal moitzi miyara lekuchas. the Baal could take it away from the Lekuchos. So let's see Rashi. Habal much matter Lekech. In Baladinima, if the Baal wants to take it away from the Lekech, he could. Because he's considered a Lekech Rishon, because as soon as he married her, he was considered Lekech. And then if the Baal took it away, Vacharecha miyad Baal, and the next person would be able to take it away from the Baal. The question is why? Didn't we say that the Baal is a Lekech and he gets to keep it? So why is Abai saying over here, Vacharecha miyad Baal? The Gemara is going to ask it in just a second. And then V'Lekech miyad Acharecha, then the Lekech can take it again away from the Acharecha, because that person's a Lekech. Umekminon Lekulu B'Yad Lekech. And what's going to happen is, at the end, when it gets to the Lekech, the second time around, Bezdin's not going to take it away from him. Because Lekech stands b'makam the Rishon. Lekech b'araf the Rishon. Lekech b'araf the Rishon. We already said that if you get a matuna and there's an acharecha, you could sell it to somebody else, and that somebody else gets to keep it.
But as long as they live, or she lives.
No, not as long as she lives, as long as the Lekech lives. So now the Lekech is the makabel. So that extends it. So let's see Rashi. So Rashi says as follows: the Baal can be much of the Lekech, right? Because the Baal is Lekech Rishon, and the Acharecha could now take it away from the Lekech. Why? The Acharecha yochel haitzi miyad Baal. I'm sorry, the Acharecha could take it away from the husband. Why? This is the main teretz. Because didn't the Abai say before that the Baal is like a Lekech and the Baal keeps it? So here's the important Rashi. The Chi Amar Abaye ein lacherim b'mokam haBaal klum. When do we say that the Acher doesn't get anything as long as the Baal is alive because the Baal is Lekech? That's only if when the Noishes Matana gave it to his wife, she wasn't married yet. So it was a complete Matana to her, and anyone who buys it from her isn't her Makam. But if he says this to a Nesua, he said, this is for you. The Acharecha Leploini, you know what he's saying? Hachikamer law. Acharecha likni. Baal loy likni. So Hachikamer, this is what he's telling her. Acharecha likni. You know who could be kind it? There's a person after you. But Baal loy likni. So when he tells it to a married woman, it's as if he's speaking out the Faidish. I don't want your Baal to have a chaylik. Yeah, so it's similar to that. So that's why over here, the Lekech will get it, but the Baal will not get it. The Acharecha.
So I believe the Baal moitzim yad Lekech.
Because the Baal is the Lekech Rishon.
But it's not.
The Baal is stronger than the Lekech, but he's not stronger than the Acher.
But Chetzke looked as nice. And when some Rashi explained, Acharecha is because dissolution means that the Baal doesn't get it.
The Baal will not get it. I'm giving it to you, but not to your Baal. So that's why if she tries giving it to her Baal, he doesn't have a koichet. But the master of Baal comes before the Lekech. So let's see Rashi. The Lekech miyad Acharecha, and then the Lekech can take it away from the Acharecha. Reb Shimon the Amar the Mechiras Harishon Mechira. Now u'mukminu lo biyad the Lekech. So why does it say Lekech? Why doesn't it go around and around again? Why after the Lekech gets it doesn't it go back to? Why after the Lekech gets it can't the Acharecha come and take it away? I'm sorry. Why after Lekech gets it can't the Baal come and take it away? On the first round the Baal took it away. How come on the second round the Baal doesn't take it away? So tomorrow the Lekech ein bezin is cooking the pamazois. And the second time around, Bezin will not take it away from the Lekech and give it to the Baal, who's considered Lekech Rishon. In Bala Etzim Yad Lekech. She'ena pamazois doimel Rishon. The second time around that the Lekech got the property from the Acharecha, that's different than when Lekech got it when they bought it from her directly. Mitchila shenichnas lem Lekech zeh mikoich mechiras isha, because umiyara isha yachal haba liton ani lekachti rishon. If you buy something from the isha, the husband would say, "Whatever you bought for my wife, I was the Lekech rishon." Aval bazu shoytimi al Acharecha. On the second time around, the Lekech took it away from the Acharecha. She'ena Baal zoiches lebedin. The Baal has no claim against your supplier. Your supplier was Acharecha. The Baal has no shum time to connect to Acharecha. Therefore, in Beis in the Skokin, the Baal could the government time to make. So Avada, he could go money from the Lekeach, because I'm Lekeach Rishon. But once the Acharecha gets involved, by the Acharecha, the husband no longer is a Koyach, because when the original license gave the matana to this woman, knowing that she was married, it's as if he spoke out that you cannot give it to your husband. Why is it that in this case it stops at the Lekeach? But in our Mishnah, it says, how come we don't say the same thing? Because you go around and around. So tomorrow, you know what? Because Hasam Islip said to the Kulu. In the case of our Mishnah, everyone's losing. The women want their ksuba. Lekeach paid for the property. So that's why it goes around and around. Hacha, there's only one person who has a loss, because there's only one person who paid for it. Lekeach, who the Islip said. The husband never paid for anything. She never paid for anything. It was all a matana. So the person who has the loss, that's where Bezin is going to see to leave it there. Also, Rafram Omer Lashmaita Kamei Ravashi. Rafram said this over to Ravashi. Me Omer Abaya Hachi. Did Abaya say this? Direct to Gemara. However, Omer Abaya Nichsilach Bacharechel Ploini. And then the Venices Baaloi Kayachava Vein Lacharecha B'Mokim Baal Klum. So Abaya, we quoted two things from it. The first thing we said that the Baal is Lekech Vein Lacharecha B'Mokim Baal Klum. But we had another member from Abaye of Nichsilach Bacharechel Ploini. There we say that the Acharecha takes it away from the Baal. It's a steer in the Abaye Gufa. Amalei, so he answered, which Rashi already told us, Hasam the Amalok Kishi Penuya. When he told her when she's a Penuya, there's no exceptions there. So the husband becomes Lekech. But Hacha, the second case is the Amalok Kishi Nesua. And therefore, my comer, what did he tell her? Law, my comer law, what is he telling her? Acharecha Likni. I'm only letting the person after you get it. Baal loy likni, I don't want your Baal to be able to be clean. Beautiful. Now the Mishnah says the case of Choshe Chalila applies v'chein b'choiv, and it says v'chein l'b'choiv, it said in the Mishnah, and it says v'chein l'ksubas isha was the Lashon of Mishnah, v'chein b'choiv, v'chein isha b'elas choiv. So what's the case? Zok to Gemara, what it means is Tana v'chein b'choiv u'shnei l'kuchois, v'chein isha b'elas choiv u'shnei l'kuchois. And Rashi explains the cases beautifully. Reuven noisha b'Shimon money. Reuven owes Shimon a money. V'lo shtei sadas, and Reuven has two fields. He sold his two fields to two people. Zu b'chamishim v'zu b'chamishim. So both fields the Malva has a right to collect from because he owes a money. V'chosav b'achoiv l'lekeach sheni, and the b'achoiv wrote to the lekeach sheni, dinu dvar me'en li'imach, I'm not going to take away your karka. So what happens? The Ba'choiv will now seize from the first buyer the property worth 50. Now the buyer can't say, hey, I bought first. I left you another property there. So don't take my property, take the next location's property. So Rashi v'chan ein loimer hinachti mokem shetik v'mena. You know why? I needed both properties to pay my choy. So Mamaila, I have a Tana even against Lekech Rishon. Now that I took the property away from Lekech Rishon, so the Lekech Rishon bought Bechrais. So the Lekech Rishon moitzim yad Sheni. The Lekech Rishon could then go and take it from the Sheni because the Lekech Rishon he has a shibud of Bechrais. Ubachoiv choizer umoitzi avzuman Rishon, and now the Bachoiv can go and take the second karka from the Rishon because by the Rishon he never said it in Dvarim. But then the Lekech Sheni can go back and take it from the Bachoiv because he told them the Lekech did the harm. The Choshe Kalila Tiasuk Psara and the Chen V'Isha Ba'Choiv Shoy Lekech Kesubos Albayla. She's also Bachoiv because her husband owes her the Kesuba. U'Machar Shteis the Dois of the Shnayim, and the husband sold his two fields that together would be enough to pay for the Kesuba. But then B'Shneim Elekdei Kesubasa. But it requires both fields to bear ksuba. The chashval sheni didn't adorm only imcha. So once again, the isha can be right about the kech rishon, and then the woman sheni, and the kech will take the sheni, and then the isha and the rishon shall go back and take it from the rishon, and then the sheni and the isha, the kech rishon and the sheni b'chosher chalilot. In all these cases, they'd have to come to an agreement because otherwise he'd be able to. Otherwise, no one's going to ever get to stay with the field. It's going to go around and around. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we finished the Temperik, we nader. Hadin Allah, Mishay Nasi. There's Hashem, Hadin Allah, Mishay Nasi. Hadin Allah, Mishay Nasi. Gewaltig.
Ich lerne nicht, oder das nicht?
Yes, we don't miss we have a couple minutes. Zakher Mishnah. Amon and Zionis Nichsi Yisrael. And Almana gets Mizonis from Nichsi Yisrael. So after her husband dies, she has a right to collect Mizonis from the Yisraelim. That's one of the Tanai Ksuba. And while she's taking Mizonis, her Maisidaim go into the estate. But the Ein Chayav Mikfurasa. If she dies, they're not Chayav to bury her. Why? Zot Rashi, Emesa. Sharei Yersheh Goyvin Kesubos Miyasher Baal. Because when she dies, who's going to get her Ksuba? Her Yershim. Baalei and the Kovra. And therefore her Yershim have to bury her. Sharei Baila Tachas Kesubos Chayav Mikfurasa. Why does the husband have to bury her? Because he yashins her Ksuba. But in this case, he's not yashining her Ksuba because he died first. Achshav Sheni Yersha, he tikvar atma. It's her estate that has to pay to bury her. Yersha Ksubasa, those who yashin, they're chayav mikfurasa. So let's just learn another line here. Anyway, Ibailu, Nizainis Nam, is the Mishnah telling you, Allah Chalamaisa, that a woman has a right to take Mizainis? What if the servant say, no, we'll give you a Ksuba right away? We don't want you to have Mizainis. So is the Mishnah Nizainis Nam that she could say, no, I don't want my Ksuba. First I want Mizainis. I don't want my Ksuba yet. Or Oihani Zainis Nam. Or is the Mishnah saying, the assignment could say, we don't want you to take. But if it's speaking about a woman who happens to be designers, then your Maishi Daim go to the estate. So is it Nizainis Nan or is Hani Zainis Nan? Nizainis Nan Ukanchi Galil, and it's like Anchi Galil, Veloy Sagi, Deloy Yovle. In Galil, they don't have a right to pay her off for Ksuba, we learned earlier, and say you cannot take Mizainis anymore. Idoma Hani Zainis Nan, Ukanchi Yehuda, and it's going according to that Yehuda, the Ibayu Loya Havala. They don't have a right. They don't have a right to force her to take the Ksuba so they can stop giving her Mizainis. Okay. Is not part of the Mishnah. That's the going on Rashi. So we'll stop here. Okay, Gewaltig. Shkoyach.
Okay, what's the moment?
Ashur from